Welcome back. For African economy to achieve its full potentials and tap into its enormous resources, the government must invest in infrastructure. This is according to the Chief Executive Officer of Africa 50, Alan Ebobisse. Speaking with VOA Channel's TV business correspondent Jill Maladrino on the sideline of the just concluded Africa Investor Forum organized by the Nasdaq Stock Exchange in New York, Mr. Ebobisse says lack of infrastructure is the biggest issue Africa economy has. He also talked about institutional investment, transparency, and sectors that are prime for growth in Africa.
Joining me is Alan Ebobisse, CEO of Africa 50, and let's talk about what you think are the really big issues right now for the continent.
Thank you very much. I think, frankly, one of the biggest issues that the continent has to face today is the lack of infrastructure to support the economic growth in the continent. So the continent has a lot of resources, but in order to achieve the full potential in terms of economic growth and improving the life of the population of Africa, I think infrastructure has definitely has to be something that has to be developed a bit faster. Of course, there are macroeconomic challenges that are in the process of being solved, but infrastructure investment is definitely, for me, the key issue.
What about financial infrastructure investment as well? Because now that we're starting to see more trade between the countries, economies are growing based on that alone. So if you have the physical infrastructure, financial infrastructure, that really lends to growth as well.
Absolutely. I think that's a very, very important point. I think everybody understands that African countries, most of them taken individually, they are too small. So you need to have trade, you need to have regional integration to create bigger markets so that you can actually have a bit more attractiveness to private investors. And today we are seeing a number of African banks that basically are operating across many countries, and we need to see a bit more of that. I can cite, for example, EcoBank and some of the Moroccan banks. They're becoming Pan-African banks, and I think we need to see more of these kind of entities covering the continent as a whole.
Outside of commodity dependency, not oil, not gold, what other sectors make it interesting for U.S. institutional investors to put their money to work in Africa?
Well, I'm going to go back to the infrastructure space. Frankly, I think you can actually have today good investment opportunities in the continent that provide very good returns in the infrastructure space. And we at Africa 50, which is the institution that I'm running, we've been set up to basically try to promote that private investment in the infrastructure space. We have raised about $830 million of capital to invest in that space. But we need partners. We need U.S. companies, U.S. pension funds, U.S. investors to come in and work with us to invest that money and to make profit, to make good returns.
A big objection to investing in Africa is transparency.
Yes.
How do you address that?
Absolutely. I think we have to be very clear that when we invest in projects, it has to be very transparent. We need to make sure that all the stakeholders understand that transparency is key. It's actually an opportunity. When a country or a project is fully transparent, I think investors are more comfortable to come in and invest. So our job, again, at Africa 50, which is an institution which was created by African governments, is to work with governments and the stakeholders to convince them that transparency is really, really important in making sure that investors will come in and get comfortable. I come from the World Bank Group. I spend a lot of time in the World Bank Group, and we have a number of standards that I think are very useful to apply in infrastructure development in other businesses so that we give comfort to the other participants to invest comfortably.
On the local level, how are the people accepting this? Are they getting more education programs, health programs, because they really are the basis of the growth?
Absolutely. I think one of the stories of Africa future is that the middle class is growing, and we need to continue to grow the middle class so as to reach a sustainable level of growth. So education is extremely key. We need to make sure that we educate people in the continent and educate in the right sectors where they can find actually jobs. I think one of the biggest challenges of African leaders is to create opportunities for people to have good jobs, and that will start with having good education And also, other social sectors like healthcare also is something that needs to be taken care of.
In relevant sectors like agribusiness, technology, mobile banking. And I think that also helps with the unemployment rate too, which is, that's a big issue, just like we see in the States coming out of college and university, putting people in jobs where it's relevant to 2016 and beyond.
Definitely. I think that's the issue that we see across the world already,
right,
to make sure that there is enough work, enough good jobs for, especially for youth, for younger people that are coming out of university and not necessarily getting jobs. So I think for me, a good, very important part of the economic policies of government is to trying to make sure that even when we do this big project I mentioned, infrastructure area, that there is also component to that project which address jobs. So because this is very important.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today. It's great to have you here in the States with us.
Thank you very much.
And let's cross over now to Nigeria interbank foreign exchange market for Naira dollar trading today. Ayodeji Oyeniyi, FX dealer, Rand Merchant Bank, joins me now. Good afternoon, Ayodeji.
Good afternoon.
So what has happened at the market so far today?
Okay, it's been a relatively quiet day. Turnover just below $5 million on the day. So we traded a range of 307 to 315 on the day. But I mean, at the moment, market is around 315 levels.
Now, in terms of liquidity, how much improvement has been recorded?
We get to have some high liquidity on some days, but in terms of average, it's really been flat in the past weeks. And so it's been moving between maybe like 5 to 10 million on a day in terms of average volume.
Now, the week has just started. What are your expectations for the rest of the week?
We do not expect to see any major change in the pattern, and that's the levels at which we've been seeing trades around, and also where banks are quoting. So, trades at 315 levels, we do not expect anything to change significantly from where we are.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Ayodeji.
Yeah, thank you.
Fitch Ratings has downgraded Angola's long-term foreign and local currency issuer default ratings to B from B+. The outlooks are negative. The issue ratings on the currency's senior unsecured foreign currency bonds have also been downgraded to B from B+. The country's ceiling has been revised down to B from B+, and the short-term foreign and local currency IDRs have been affirmed at B. The downgrade of Angola's IDRs means Angola continues to suffer from a severe oil shock, leading to a sharp worsening of macroeconomic, fiscal and external metrics. Sustained pressure on the balance of payments has led the authorities to restrict foreign currency availability, creating a severe liquidity shortage. Algeria plans to allow its dominant state banks to list on the local stock exchange to help develop its financial markets and diversify sources of funding after the oil price slide. The plan will open the door for foreign investors to acquire controlling stakes in banks, reversing a rule requiring Algerian firms to keep a majority shareholding in any partnership with foreigners. Algeria's 6 government-run banks account for most of the sector's assets. French companies such as Société Générale and BNP Paribas have the strongest presence among foreign-owned banks already working in the country. OPEC member Algeria's economy has been largely based on a state-run and centralized system since its independence from France in 1962, and it remains reliant on an energy sector that still provides 60% of its budget. When we return after the break, of course, we continue with the program. Do stay with us.